6:42 now. Following breaking news this hour, the Coast Guard searching Lake Erie for a missing boater.
This is happening near Put-in-Bay and Rattlesnake Island, and 13 ABC's Tony Geftos is now live with the very latest. Tony.
Sasha and Bill, it's not just one missing boater. We're talking about 4 people, including a 17-year-old girl. They were all in, as you said, the Put-in-Bay area. It was Middle Bass, South Bass Island. They were actually fishing between Rattlesnake and Green Island out in Lake Erie. And you can see behind us here, we're in Carroll Township at Locust Point. We've got Carroll Township Fire. They're all scanning the area, looking out into the water to see if they spot anything, because this is where they discovered the trailer for that boat. The last they heard from him was around 6:15 last night. As I mentioned, the 4 of them went out on a fishing trip, and now there is a frantic search underway because they discovered that the trailer was here. The boat launched from Locust Point sometime around 1 o'clock this morning is when they found that trailer. So ever since then, the Coast Guard's been involved. They've got the Coast Guard from Toledo, Detroit, Marblehead. The U.S. Border Patrol is here. We also have a helicopter from Canada scanning the area, and they're flying over Lake Erie right now, still trying to determine what happened to this boat and where the 4 people on board might be. And we're going to continue to follow this as it develops throughout the day and hopefully have some more information for you here. But even these boaters who are going out into Lake Erie up through this channel here are saying we're going to keep an eye out. We've got radio communication. We're going to see if we spot anything. So we're just waiting to hear more from the officials. But for now, reporting live in Carroll Township, Tony Geftos, 13 ABC Action News.
Live from WTVG Toledo, this is 13 ABC Action News.
Breaking developments on a story we have been following since early this morning. The Coast Guard confirming late this morning that they found a body in Lake Erie. It's believed to be one of the 4 people who was on a fishing boat that never returned to shore last night. 13 ABC's Tony Geftos has been live on this story all morning long. He joins us now with the newest information.
Well, Sasha, this is a massive coordinated effort between many agencies, including the Coast Guard. They're the lead agency on this, and it's an extremely sensitive situation, as you can imagine. Emotions are running high. We are right outside of Turtle Point Marina. We are actually on Locust Point near McGee Marsh, and across Lake Erie is where this fishing boat was headed. Last night, around 6:15 was the last time family and friends actually heard from those on board. There were 4 people on board, 3 adult men and then 1 teenage girl. She's 17 years old. They were headed out fishing between Rattlesnake and Green Islands, and about 6:15, as I mentioned, was the last time anyone had heard word from them. By 2 o'clock this morning, the Coast Guard got involved because that vessel was supposed to return, but it did not. So a search effort was underway, and it was, as I said, between many agencies. We were out here with the Border Patrol this morning. They were using night vision cameras to scan the waters, along with Carroll Township firefighters. They were just trying to locate any signs of this missing boat.
But we begin tonight with this. U.S. Coast Guard has found 2 women dead in the water.
Tonight, the search continues by air and by water for the 2 men who are still missing. The group was on a fishing boat that never returned to shore last night. After daylight, rescuers found that 21-foot bass boat partially submerged 5 miles offshore in a well-known fishing spot called Toussaint Reef.
Following the latest developments in the search with our team coverage tonight.
Tony Geftos has a look at how the Coast Guard and other searchers are responding. Ross Ellett explains last night's condition on the water and what could have gone wrong. But we start with Christine Long, who is live with the newest information. Christine?
Diane Lee, these were believed to be experienced boaters. The Coast Guard found the bodies of the 2 women, both wearing life vests. The Ottawa County Sheriff just released the names of the 2 victims. Those are 33-year-old Amy Sanctus. We are told Amy Sanctus is from Perrysburg. Also, 17-year-old Paige Widmer. The Ottawa County Sheriff says he believes she's from Northwest Ohio. He does not have the exact city or town. The Coast Guard continues to search by boat and by helicopter this evening for the 2 remaining missing boaters, 2 men. Investigators say the search is the priority right now, not the investigation into what caused the boat to sink. Now, there are several shoals and reefs out there. The Coast Guard has not seen ice out on Lake Erie for about a week. Now, the sheriff says he does not know yet when the boat started to go underwater. He says yesterday the group of 4, 2 men and 2 women, sent pictures back to family members of them fishing. Those family members called for help when they lost communication.
We start 13 minutes of nonstop news with breaking news on the search for the remaining 2 fishermen who went missing last night. Thank you for joining us. I'm Diane Larson.
And I'm Lee Conklin. U.S. Coast Guard suspended its search earlier tonight for the 2 men on Lake Erie. Earlier today, crews recovered the bodies of a 33-year-old woman and a 16-year-old girl.
13 ABC's Christine Long has the very latest from Ottawa County near McGee Marsh.
Tragedy on Lake Erie. Today, the U.S. Coast Guard found the body of Paige Widmer. The 16-year-old lives in South Carolina and was visiting family in Northwest Ohio. Rescue crews also recovered the body of 33-year-old Amy Santis of Perrysburg. Both Santis and Widmer were wearing life vests. The two went out fishing yesterday on a 21-foot bass boat from Turtle Point Marina with two others. The sheriff says he doesn't know yet when the boat started to go underwater. He says yesterday the group of four sent pictures back to their family of them fishing. Those family members called for help when they lost communication. This morning after daylight, rescuers found the boat partially submerged 5 miles offshore in a well-known fishing spot called Toussaint Reef.
I know there are some shoals out there, and a lot of people fish out that way. I know the various reefs are in the area, so I can't say what caused the boat to sink.
The search continued throughout the day by air and by water for the two remaining missing boaters, two men, as investigators warn others hitting the water this walleye season to be careful.
We encourage you to wear a safety jacket, a life jacket, to file a float plan, and to take all the necessary precautions, weather, wind, be aware of your own limitations, that sort of thing.
Ottawa County is a huge destination for boaters. We have the largest number of boaters, boats, largest volume of lake in Ohio, more marinas than any other county in the state of Ohio. So obviously we're going to have mishaps, unfortunately.
Reporting from Ottawa County, Christine Long, 13 ABC, Action News.
And the Lucas County coroner is conducting the autopsy on the bodies of the woman and the teenage girl who were found. The Ottawa County Sheriff says he has no reason to believe that alcohol was a factor.
And turning now to the developing story about the search for two missing boaters on Lake Erie. It's been more than 24 hours since anyone has heard from those two men, but local authorities are not giving up just yet.
We're going to check in with 13 ABC's Tony Geftos. He took a trip out onto the water with some boaters today. And Tony, we understand that everybody is kind of pitching in a hand, trying to do whatever they can to find these two.
Yeah, Jeff, the people who may be able to help the most with this search are those already out on the water, and that's because the U.S. Coast Guard has suspended its portion of the search. Yesterday, the search led them to the discovery of two bodies, that of Amy Santis, who was 33 and from Perrysburg, and Paige Widmer, who was 16 years old and from the Columbia area of South Carolina. They were both wearing life jackets, and they were both not far from where their boat was found partially submerged. That was in Toussaint Reef. It's a well-known fishing spot here in Ottawa County, just off the shoreline. And on Wednesday evening, they were all heading back from a trip near South Bass Island, the two of them with two men who remain missing at this hour. Today, we did head out with some boaters in this area to where the fishermen and women gather. Michelle Trouch and her husband Bruce are well aware of the tragedy that took place this weekend, of the dangers on Lake Erie.
Oh, it's sad what happens, but I mean, people should really know and understand the weather, because this lake can, like I said, change on you in an instant.
Now, if you do find anything in the water, the U.S. Coast Guard is asking you to weigh anchor and contact the ODNR immediately. They're also saying don't touch whatever it is, because it's potentially evidence in the mystery of what may or may not have happened in this case. But we do have some late-breaking details here, and Christine Long is out here with me as well. And you just spoke with some family members of those missing men. What were they telling you?
Tony, I just talked to Ralph Huff. He is the father of Brian Huff, who is still missing, who they're searching for right now. Ralph wanted to say that his son was a very, very experienced fisherman. They said that he lived out on the lake. He's a fisherman. He's a hunter. He was saying, we just want to get our boys home. They have been hunkered down over here waiting for answers, and they're not going anywhere. He also said he's so experienced, there was no accident, no collision, something just went wrong. He doesn't know what it is, and he's waiting for answers, but he wants everybody to know that his son was a very experienced fisherman, an experienced boater, and he essentially lived on the lake, and we just want to get him home, is what Ralph Huff said of his son, Brian.
And you could imagine the emotional time that they're going through, just anxiously waiting for any word, and he conveyed that to you as well.
Yes, you could tell he was sort of trying not to get angry, get into tears. He's trying to stay calm because he's sitting here waiting for answers. There's nothing he can do. I mean, the Coast Guard's not out there right now. It's the sheriff's department and other fishermen who are keeping an eye out. And they're from Rossford, and he said he just wants to get him home, and once he gets him home, he'll talk a little bit more. But the one thing he wanted to convey is that his son was very experienced on the lake, an experienced boater, an experienced fisherman. He doesn't know what went wrong, but it must have been some kind of accident.
Right, just an agonizing wait for them. So thank you very much, Christine Long. That was an update from the family as well, and we'll continue to be out here. And we are live in Ottawa County at this hour. Tony Geftos, Christine Long, reporting for 13 ABC.
But first, breaking details tonight. That boating tragedy on Lake Erie off Ottawa County. 2 people died. 2 people still missing. Their boat was recovered Wednesday. And within the past hour, the Ottawa County Sheriff's Office says 2 women found dead in the water drowned. Their deaths are not linked to hypothermia.
And the search continues for 2 men. Brian Huff of Rossford is an experienced fisherman. His dad says he lived on the lake. Andrew Rose of Maumee works as a bartender in downtown Toledo. Welcome to Action News at 6. I'm Christian Brown in for Diane Larson.
And I'm Lee Conklin. Thanks for joining us this half hour. After a full day of searching using sonar equipment, the Ottawa County Sheriff's Office just announced it's wrapping up its search for the day.
13 ABC's Christine Long reports from Carroll Township with the latest.
Ohio DNR says there's no structural damage to the boat, which was recovered yesterday, meaning there was no collision. The boat didn't hit anything, and the group was likely on its way back in because all the fishing gear was secure. The search and rescue effort has ended. Today, the Ottawa County Sheriff's Office used a boat outfitted with sonar technology around Sault Ste. Reef, the last known location, to try and detect signs of the 2 remaining missing boaters at the bottom of the lake. 33-year-old Andrew Rose of Maumee and 32-year-old Brian Huff of Rossford. Huff's father, Ralph, spoke with 13 ABC off camera, saying, "My boy was very, very experienced out there. He lived on the lake. He was a hunter and a fisherman. We just want to get him home."
You know, the operator, the owner of the boat, was a very well versed in this area in particular and fishing the big waters like Lake Erie. I mean, he fishes a lot of tournaments and things like that. He's an avid angler.
Meanwhile, Rose worked at Home Slice Pizza in downtown Toledo's Warehouse District as a bartender. The manager there tells 13 ABC he got worried when Rose didn't show up for work Wednesday night. Rose and Huff had been out fishing with 33-year-old Amy Santis and 16-year-old Paige Widmer. Yesterday, the U.S. Coast Guard found their bodies in the water several miles offshore. Santis of Perrysburg was a registered nurse at Mercy St. Charles Hospital in Oregon. Widmer was from South Carolina, in town visiting her father. Her friends back home in her hometown are in mourning.
She's a really good person, like, just to know, like, she impacted so many people, like, everybody loved Paige.
When somebody enters the water unexpectedly, it's very incapacitating.
State investigators have not yet determined why the group's 21-foot tracker capsized, but they have a warning for the hundreds of boaters on the lake now, where water temperature is in the low 40s.
Expect the unexpected, because things can happen in a hurry, and when you hit the cold water, a lot of times you don't have the chance to grab the life jacket or to grab that marine radio.
The Ottawa County coroner says the cause of death for the 2 recovered boaters is drowning. He says the autopsy did not find signs of hypothermia. And this news comes as the Ottawa County Sheriff officially ends the search for the 2 remaining missing boaters. Reporting from Carroll Township, Christine Long, 13 ABC Action News.